way, which can sometimes cause some confusion in pronunciation. So I answer to Sherry, Curry, Cherie, Ceri, you name it. I've been known to answer to it, and I've been known to find it on a Starbucks coffee cup. I currently sit on the global board of Mace Consult, and I've spent the last 25 plus years working for some of the largest client and contractor side construction, project management and consultancy companies in the world. So Bechtel, which is the largest privately owned construction company in the United States at peak, a 55 billion revenue company. Network Rail, Jacobs, Lang O'Rourke, Atkins, and now Mace. I currently lead a 1,400 strong cost and commercial management team, and I'm responsible for the people. So that's career, training, and deployment globally, process, our pipeline and business development, and most importantly, consistent project delivery of cost, commercial, procurement, supply chain, and estimating management services on some of the world's biggest construction sites across the UK, Europe, Asia Pacific, so that's Hong Kong, Philippines, Singapore, Australia, Middle East and Africa, including Saudi Arabia, USA, Canada, and Latin America. With clients from Sizewell C, Ministry of Justice, the UK's biggest prison programme, New Hospitals Programme, Anglian Water, Barclays, JPMC, Live Nation, HSBC, Brisbane Olympics, Canada's Metrolinx Rail Programme, Hong Kong Mass Transit Railway, Qiddiya, King Salman International Airport in Saudi, infrastructure and giga projects, so that's projects over $500 billion. Global arenas, railways, airports, iconic buildings, and I have to mention, we built the Olympic Park for 2012 in London. So that keeps me pretty busy. I spent 11 years on rail major programs, knee-deep in muck and ballast, leading commercial or project management across multiple construction sites. I've managed numerous rail blockades. I've got my stripes giving up Christmas and Easter holidays, and for 6 years straight on Rugby Station, Reading Station, Old Oak Common, I've been the only woman on site with 200 men, Reading Depot. I've been the learner, the manager, the leader, the PA, the executive, and over the course of what's now 25 years in the industry, I'm much less of an anomaly than I was back then. So when I was asked to do this keynote, I messaged Michaela to ask, did you have a preference of what I should talk about? Then 2 weeks ago, I spent 4 days at our Mace Consult Global Exec Away Days in Dubai. We've recently been acquired, 75% investment from Goldman Sachs. And this was an opportunity to get to know our fellow board members better. Among other things on day one was a fireside chat, Graham Norton style, brilliantly led by Jason Millett, who's our group CEO. His brief to each of the panelists was, don't talk about work. I want to get to know who you are as a person. Where did you start, and how did you get to where you are now? What's important to you? What have you learned? What have you regretted along the way? How might you do things differently or lead differently, knowing what you know now? And what struck me as I listened over the next few hours is that at our core, each of us has a story, even partners at Goldman Sachs, maybe a story of something from our past that motivates us. A story of something that has been our nemesis or our failure, a heartbreak, a tragedy, a bully, a champion, a lucky break, a redundancy, a parent who supported us, an absent parent, maybe something that has changed our direction or course, or maybe we're not really sure how we got here, An old mentor of mine, a guy called Tom McCarthy, who was one of the greatest Giga project managers in the world, joined Bechtel for the skiing and ended up one of their partners. So I stand here today to tell you my story, because you see, I'm a 51-year-old menopausal mum to a gorgeous, long-awaited 6-year-old, a wife to an infrastructure major program director, stepmom to a 15-year-old. I've sung for Prince Charles, lost a parent early on to suicide, gone through 10 years of IVF and miscarriage, and I'm also the Welsh Valley's granddaughter of a coal miner whose strapline when he made it, after 40 years underground in the pit, to being leader and chair of Gwent County Council was, never forget where you came from. So here's my story. It has a few chapters, so buckle up. This little girl is me. Here, she was 9 years old. It was the first time she'd ever traveled on a train. She grew up in a small, poor, industrial South Wales coast mining town and didn't have a car until she was a teenager. She never traveled abroad, so the train to Bournemouth for her and the family was the pinnacle of excitement and luxury. This little girl is me. She was born with a wonky eye, and in spite of going through surgery at 2 years old and wearing patches on and off for 6 years, it never really worked very well, so I only see out of one eye. She got teased. She got called names, which made her a bit self-conscious, but her mum, who was kick-ass, taught her that didn't matter and to be brave and confident just like her. This is a photo of my mum and dad. And this little girl adored her dad, who looked like a movie star and was an exceptional gymnast and rugby player. In spite of his physical abilities, he suffered a nervous breakdown when he was in his 30s. So don't let the smile fool you. As we all know, mental health in construction, and particularly for men of a certain age, is super, super important. Approximately 1 in 4 adults in England will experience a mental health problem at some point. Some people seem okay when they're not. It's common for individuals to project an image of being perfect or well-adjusted on the outside, and that was my dad. My dad could backflip the length of a school sports field. My dad could sing like Marvin Gaye. My dad was the life and soul of every party, and I would get followed home from school because he was so gorgeous. It's important to know that when adults suffer from mental health issues, children can often take on adult roles, such as providing emotional support, managing the household, or caring for siblings. This little girl learned to drive as soon as she could so she could take her dad to his medical appointments in between school lessons. Bigger than the FA Cup, this little girl was an accomplished musician. She won national awards for singing, which made her dad very proud. I was a bright spark at school. I was used to getting top grades. I was often teased for being a swot. I was predicted top marks in my A-levels with a trophy for being Wales' top classical singer under the age of 18. The benchmark for Welsh education grade A was set based on my performance. But on A-level results day, 1993, I fell spectacularly short of my predicted AAB grades. You see, what my teachers didn't know was that I really didn't have a home life conducive to study during that 3 preceding years. My dad had been taken seriously ill. He had a complete mental breakdown, and to a lesser or greater extent, during those years, I had become a part-time carer to him. At the time, it was just normal life to me as a teenager, but as the only driver in our household, Among other things, it was my responsibility to get him safely to and from bi-weekly psychiatric appointments. The challenges of getting him out of the house and on that day into the car was hard. So my grades, rather than being AAB, were BAD. Do you see what I did there? As luck would have it, I was offered multiple places to study music, based purely on my performance. I had even been selected as Prince Charles's soloist, and I settled on a place at Cardiff University starting the following October. 3 weeks later, Dad took his own life, and my uni experience and my singing career ended with my returning home to be with Mum. You see, for singing to be truly great, the heart and the head have to work together, and at that point, it was just too painful. Choose your hard. Mum being Mum made it very clear that either I reapplied to university or I got a job and earned my keep. Very much a family mantra. After a difficult 12-hour shift at a detergent factory, stuffing detergent into boxes in a windowless room, I decided it wasn't for me and that this wasn't what I wanted out of life. So I reapplied to uni and a year later moved to London and completed my degree. Feeling a bit lost, I fell into a career as a PA. And may I say, the hardest job I've ever done. If you've seen the movie Devil Wears Prada, it's worse than that. I worked my way up to a senior position managing the office at Classic FM. Failed, again. At least that's how it felt. I ended up being made redundant 25 years ago at the age of 26. Classic FM was taken over by Capital Radio. Not knowing what to do or what was next, I applied for a seemingly random job in the Guardian newspaper to be PA to the president of the ICE. I worked for Douglas Oakervie, Adrian Long, Colin Clinton, Gordon Masterton, Quentin Leaper, Gene Venables. The list of eminent engineers was as long as your arm. And I fell in love with this industry that I hadn't known before. Can you guess which one on this picture is me? Soon after, I met an amazing man at a big engineering company who inspired me. He believed in me and gave me the opportunity to retrain as a quantity surveyor at 29 years old, even though I wasn't exactly sure what a QS was at that stage. I went on to have an amazing career in the construction industry, traveling the world for work. I've worked all across Middle East, Africa, Saudi Arabia, America, the UK, Ireland, Hong Kong, the Philippines. I went on to have this amazing career, traveling the world, working for global businesses in board-level roles, winning accolades and speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people. This narrative on this slide, I joined as a PA. A few months after joining, an amazing male advocate saw something in me, and he gave me that opportunity to retrain. I studied civil engineering law and contract management at the ICE before embarking on my quantity surveying masters. At the same time, I landed the commercial lead role on Reading Depot, which was 220 million scope in 2008. And if you just look at those dates, 3 years between being a PA and leading my own 220 million job on site. That job was delivered 7 months early and 33 million under budget. And if you look up how many jobs are delivered on time on budget, you won't find many. We gained the first certification for collaboration, ISO 44001 on the British Railway. We were nominated for 4 British Construction Industry Awards, including the Prime Minister's Award, and we won the Health and Safety Award. So there were some more obstacles along the way. there was more happening behind the scenes while I was doing all of that. This is a picture of our now 5-year-old outside my house. What struck me with this picture is how representative it is of life as a working mum. In spite of my amazing career, I was late to motherhood. Sadly, not through choice, but after 10 years and multiple IVF cycles, all at the same time as that story I've just told you, and after dealing with what I felt for many years was another failure, I finally fell pregnant at the age of 43. Despite being late to motherhood, I truly thought in those senior roles that I understood and could withstand most pressure. I was immune to sleeplessness through my extensive work travel. No job could be as hard or as simultaneously rewarding as the one that I was already in. I also thought I was an empathetic and thoughtful leader who resolved to champion and speak up for women, especially those trying to juggle work and home life. But what I learned through pregnancy, childbirth, and my eventual return to work was that in doing so, I really had to reassess which path I was walking. One as the old me, and one as someone who was forever changed, and the old me hadn't really had a clue. Aches, pains, dislocations, heartburn, anxious trips to the midwife when baby hasn't moved for 7 hours, then childbirth, emergency C-section, anyone? Weight gain, preeclampsia, postnatal hypertension, for some, depression, and then the pressure of keeping a tiny human alive, breastfeeding or not, while getting 0 sleep, 0 time to eat, and for those unlucky enough to have had babies like me, just prior to our pandemic, none of the perks of parental leave. I've learned firsthand that making the decision to come back to work after this mind-numbingly life-altering period is difficult and brave. Likewise, making the decision to put on hold a career and going on this journey in the first place can seem daunting because finding the right path back can seem difficult to achieve. So who am I? You see, I stand here as many different things. The coal miner's granddaughter, the singer, the carer, the suicide survivor, the career reinventor, the failure, the success story, the childless woman, the board member, the mum. We all have a story. And through that story, I've learned many things about myself and about how to lead, some of which I will leave you with today. I've learned from my loss that there is tremendous beauty in sunsets on site. Watching steelwork going up over the Reading Festival site adjacent to Reading Depot. There's beauty in watching Pems and Lems chug their way along tracks while snowflakes fall. Make time to find beauty in all things. I've learned that everyone is underestimated, sometimes by others, but often by themselves. But that being quiet and steadfast in your confidence, you'll be heard and you'll get there. I've learned that as a creative, bubbly blonde who wears bright colors, it can take people a while to understand that my waters run deep. If you're an ocean, be an ocean. Don't be a pond just because people can't swim. I've learned to plan the work and work the plan, but that at the same time, change is a steady state. Be ready for it. I've learned to be professional, disciplined, consistent. One of the people I've learned most about this from is Michaela. You show up for everyone, and that's key. That sometimes there's a bigger plan, and when you really accept that you can't lose anything that's truly meant for you, you'll relax into it. One that's really important for me, lead with empathy and kindness. It costs nothing, and to quote Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said, They'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And finally, I've learned that setting out your red lines is so important. What do I mean by red lines? A red line is a limit you won't cross, a value or a standard that you won't compromise on. It's about knowing what you will and you won't tolerate, both professionally and personally. It helps protect your time, your energy, your ethics, and your well-being. It's about upfront, clear setting of non-negotiable boundaries in your professional life and your personal life. And particularly this can be hard as a woman navigating male-dominated or high-pressure industries. This could be picking the kids up from school, whether you're mum or your dad, date night, walking the dog, looking after an elderly parent, or going to a pub quiz. As a leader, I encourage my teams to protect their red lines by letting me know early what they are, and I make sure they leave loudly by announcing at the start of the day that they will be leaving at 5 p.m. for something important. My kid's birthday party is tonight, I'm leaving at 5. So don't go landing on me an assignment at 5 to 5. Don't go giving me a can you just at 5 to 5. So to end, we're all just human at our core. We all have a story, something that sets us off course or on course. Someone who didn't believe in us, something or someone that hurt us, something that didn't go to plan. But when you fall down 7 times, only you can decide where your story goes. You're the only one who can decide to fall down 7, but stand up 8. In the words of Dennis Whatley, failure should be our teacher, not our undertaker. Failure is delay, not defeat. It is a temporary detour, not a dead end. Failure is something we can avoid only by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. Thanks everyone for listening.